Okay, hey everybody, welcome back to the Gospel Missile Podcast. I am Chris, here with my beautiful bride, Carolyn. As we mentioned before, this is part 2 of a 2-part episode on our big family and why we have a big family. So what we wanted to do is just go ahead and jump right back in. Here we go. So we make the decision just simply based off of the idea of God's in control. God wants us to have children. He said, "Be fruitful and multiply," and He gave Adam the commandment to to dominate the earth as He sees it. And coming from the military, we have these general orders to the century, and the first one was to take charge of this post and all government property within view, which is really what we're supposed to do as humans in this world that has been taken over by evil. And we're Christians, we're ambassadors, we're priests to the unbelievers and to the believers alike, that we're to, in the name of Jesus, step back in and grow His kingdom. And having children, the way I see it, is part of that, because I can only talk to so many people, but if I raise my children right and the Lord, brings them to Him, then ideally they would do the same thing, and then my reach as an individual, or our reach as a couple, all of a sudden is exponentially larger. Having children is really a part of that, because now we've more than replaced ourselves in society, like in the population. We've done our air quote duty to grow the population, which is necessary for a healthy society, but we have a full quiver, as the psalmist put it, that's my prayer. That the Lord would use them in a mighty way. I've honestly believed that. I don't really see myself as all that important. I'm not Billy Graham. I'm not a rock star. I'm not John Cooper from Skillet. I don't have the reach that those men have. But if I believe that reach is potentially or eventually going to be there through them and through the great things that the Lord has planned for them. And I'm here just holding down the fort and trying to invest as much as I can into them and into my marriage and my family, and just keeping us afloat so the Lord can bless that and do immeasurably more than what I can imagine. So I guess that really answers the question from my point of view, like, why do you have so many kids, is like, well, I feel like it is my duty. Like, it's in the kingdom of God is to multiply it, and shoot, man, that's really the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, I remember watching that sermon with you, and up until that point, it had been difficult for us to talk about having another one. There were some phrases that we just realized weren't the right way for us to look at it. Like, you would say things like, well, then we reset the clock.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's a terrible thing to say.
And I really just think that's evidence of how the world and like how the world had impacted us, and how even after all that time had still looked at it. Like, the world looks at having children as a disruption of your life. Like, your life has to stop. Like, it's not a change for the better. It's a change, but not for the better. And it's one of the reasons why we make sure to like have a baby shower for each one. Like, traditionally, that's not really acceptable.
Yeah, and at this point, I having number 7 on the way, I have grown from this. Yeah, we need stuff that, oh, now we don't. The world is, we've been able to prosper in the world enough that we don't really need anything. Y'all just come over and let's have some cake.
Like, it's just about celebrating the life, like the blessing that God has given us, not please come give us stuff, we're broke.
Well, now I'm kind of like, please, love offerings at the door. Anything will do.
What was my point? So, like, at that point, we were kind of in opposition, because like, I knew at the time that there's like all these worldly reasons while we're struggling financially why we're gonna add another baby to it. Like, we want to do all these things, but every time we have a baby, it resets the clock. And there were like there was some back and forth about it, and it wasn't good.
No.
So I guess I was pretty relieved when things swung the other way, but then it took 9 months.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some submission things on my part, and the Lord used Vodi to do that in my life, and I remember him making a point, and this kind of cut me to the quick. Was he made a point that just like Americans hate children.
Yeah.
Like, we just hate kids. I think that's what he says. We as a society, we as a culture hate kids. And I was like, well, who are you to say that? I don't hate kids. I've got 4. I've got 5 kids. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't hate kids. And then he just kind of went on going into that explanation of really just a culmination of everything you just said. And I was like, oh. Well, I need to submit this.
Yeah.
So, like, my way of doing that was to share that video, like, share that sermon with you, for that purpose. I guess for accountability.
Yeah.
It's what it comes down to. Like, I can listen to whatever sermon I want, or podcast or whatever. If I don't share it, then it doesn't necessarily ever had to have happened.
Yeah. But any conviction you experience, if you just keep it to yourself, then you're not held accountable to it.
Well, that'll preach.
Yeah.
I think that's a recovery message right there. I remember just it was a thing of it was a moment of submission. Like, well, okay, God, if this is your will, then let's do it. And so you said that you remember it taking 9 months, and I remember thinking during that point in time, oh, maybe it was over.
Maybe we're done. Yeah.
Maybe the Lord was just trying to get me in line with His will first, and then executing, the stop order, if you will.
Yeah. We moved during that period. Like, that was, post-COVID, and
oh, the market was right.
So we moved, and I think it was around like the 6-month mark I stopped paying attention.
Yeah, we had agreed to just like let it go.
And it was funny though when we realized I was 2 weeks late.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because you're just like, hey, when are you going to start? And I went to look at my app because for some reason I didn't know off the top of my head, as I so often do.
You know, it's just weird.
And I was like, 2 weeks ago, I remember Carolyn. I remember you saying that to me, and I was just like,
I used your full name there. Carolyn Ashley. Wait. No, I didn't say that.
So yeah. So that was number 6.
Yeah. Numero 6.
And just there's still so much of the world that impacts how we experience it. There's like what we know and accept privately, but then when you tell people, you're having, like, well, people thought we were going to stop having kids after the first 2. We had a boy and a girl. Oh, you're done, right?
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
You have your perfect little family.
And then
I thought that was ignorant.
And we had the twins, and I mean, there's a lot of things people said about that. Like somehow we did that on purpose. How do you do that on purpose? I haven't that one I haven't figured out yet.
Oh, man. The things I said to people for that. Oh my goodness.
And we still haven't learned any humility there to actually like respond like appropriately. We just have to have a snappy little. But people say things.
Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness. Having some grace and humility is something the Lord has yet to hammer out of me yet. Because I just want to shoot back. So, like what I said the other day about what old dude said at work. He says, "Come on, man! Like, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, man, I read the book and I'm doing what it said." And then he called me an idiot, and I'm just like, "Well, I mean, coming from you, gonna refrain from the more inappropriate things I've said to people, but I'm definitely not graceful in that way."
I know. So here they were in usually, and then we had 2 boys, and I remember while I was pregnant with the twins, I feel like, I don't know, maybe moms won't necessarily understand this more than like fathers would, but like I felt guilty like not giving her a sister. It was the strangest thing, because like you don't have any control, but I was like, oh, she's gonna be outnumbered. And then the boys kept coming. I remember when we cut the cake for I thought she was gonna cry.
I think she did cry. No, she did with me. She did.
What did we do with like how did we?
That was the shotgun.
Nuh-uh. It was the shock. Oh, at your mom's.
Yep, my mom's side tossed it up.
Yeah.
Like I'm, Wild Bill Hickok. Just have my brother throw the ball up in the air and I hit it with a shotgun. It was target load, man. I couldn't have missed.
So there was like that internal struggle of like I wanted a girl and I wanted her to have a sister, and like I certainly don't want to make it sound like that's the only reason like I kept having them, but I also can't just deny that wasn't a factor at all.
Yeah, so, I remember talking about that though, like this guilt that you were feeling.
Just because you don't remember doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Well, that's true. That's why I have to record our conversations now.
Now this one happened faster. Like.
Oh yeah, it was like we were pretty well. Like these two are pretty close.
Yeah.
It was just now. He's not even 2.5.
He'll.
She's counting on her fingers. What number was that?
So he'll be. Yeah, he won't be 2.5. I think you're still the closest though, because he turned 2 in May and she was born in August.
Yeah, it'll be they'll keep that title. They are the closest.
And then like there was more space between Sherry and the twins because we lost one.
Yeah.
And then
It's been an even spread. I mean, there's 3 years between the twins and now.
we've got 2, 4, 7, 10, and 12.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Have we made our point yet?
It's been quite the journey. Well,
like I'm not trying to rush it. I'm just kind of wondering if we've gotten just totally off track. At the time of this recording, I am just hours away from being 30 weeks pregnant. Just for posterity.
Yeah, for posterity. So you asked if we had gotten to the point in in our grand fashion. Then I actually kind of think we have. So really, I think I know the answer. I don't think you have any regrets.
No.
In having so many.
No.
I mean, financially, life is hard.
Yeah.
Financially, things are tough.
Like, things are rather overstimulating sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
The conflicting personalities.
Or sometimes it's the personalities that are so much alike each other and just having different opinions on a subject, and they're being competing in that way. So does it bring you joy? Like, does it bring you happiness to have so many kids? Like, we're famous for this.
Yeah. Like, all of them together is difficult, but when I'm able to step back and see each of their individual either current or potential contributions to the world, no, wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, it's easy to say that because, they're people and they're here. Like, what am I supposed to say?
And there's not been any major heartache or sickness or anything like that.
They're extremely healthy children. Like, we haven't had hospitalizations.
I mean, shoot, we've not even had any real broken bones or anything like that, which is amazing.
No major surgeries, no, genetic problems. We don't even really have severe behavioral issues.
So, I mean, with that said, I mean, there's a lot of things we haven't experienced and a lot of things we can't speak to because we haven't experienced those things. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary sometimes to look at, what I need to provide for and the overhead that takes, and I'm dealing with some of my own emotional issues and things like that, and where depression and anxiety come in, and just realizing that no, I can't take a day off, or no, I can't just quit if I don't like a situation. There's a lot riding on it, and then I need to provide a certain amount of income and a certain amount of I'm not gonna say comfort, but we still have to keep the power on, and we still have to I still have to provide a vehicle that can shuttle all of us from one place to another, and that takes a lot, and there's a lot in it. So do you think having this many kids has brought us closer together? Has it improved our marriage, or has it improved your walk with God? Like, do you feel like it would be different in those ways had we not had the children?
So there was a message that I heard that changed how I viewed things. I still like it's this little, I don't know, it's like 4 minutes. There's a couple different versions of it on YouTube. It's got like 3 or 4 of people we like to hear from making really good points about marriage.
Oh yeah, that's the one with Paul Washer and
John Piper.
John Piper. Oh,
Vody Baucham. The point of it is, like, marriage is supposed to help us, like, it's a refining process so that we become more like Jesus. So, like, I love Jesus because of his unconditional love, so I'm supposed to learn unconditional love. But then we have problems when you don't meet the conditions.
Right.
Well, I got something to learn there then. And that can just be further applied with, showing grace and mercy and forgiveness. Because these are all the things that we want desperately, not just from Jesus, but from other people. And so we have to go through situations where we learn to give them.
Like, I think Paul Washer was making the point that God commands us in the scriptures, like he commands us in, I guess, what was it, Ephesians. Paul is saying, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Like, he's telling us to love our wives unconditionally to the death is what he's saying. And it's a commandment because we as humans don't do it naturally. Like, he's got to spell it out for us.
Yeah.
And likewise, maybe this isn't Peter, I don't know, he said it a couple different places, but he says, wives, respect your husbands. I mean, that
respect and submit to.
Oh yeah, that's the Peter language right there. Is the submission. So that is something that, as a result of the curse, all the way back in Genesis 3.
Because anything with 2 heads is a monster.
That's right. So 2 heads is a monster. There's a head of the family. There's a head of the church, and there's a head of the marriage, and these are all commandments because we don't naturally do them. For me, wanting to continue to have children, that was something I took seriously after I realized that there was a commandment. And so when I responded to old dude this past week, like, I read the book and I'm doing what it says, like, that really is a submission to the Lord's authority in our lives. And I think we're coming to a close to our recording here, but we're coming to a close in this stage of our lives. Like, we're getting a little bit older, and you're beginning to feel like your body can't do it anymore, and even if it is the last one, I mean, I don't know where we're gonna be in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, but man, there's adoption too, there's fostering kids too, and I think that I have a suspicion that may be the next chapter.
There's families that are in crisis that just need somebody to help keep their kids out of the system while they get it together.
Yeah, we never know. We might know those people now, and it's not the first time that we volunteered to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, I can think of twice before. Like, there's a standing. I'm not going to mention their names, but should that call come, there's no hesitation. Like, I'll incorporate I'll incorporate those children into the house so fast it's not even funny. Like if I have to build a bed like overnight, I'll build a bed overnight. I mean, it just be what it is, and that would be our service to the Lord and a service to that family.
So I guess my point, like if marriage is a refining process, like parenthood is the next step of that.
Oh my gosh, we could probably talk another hour about how many times have I heard my kid say something to me or say something out loud, and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't use that word, but I use it all the time.
Yeah, or like just these little phrases, or like the sarcasm, or like that, like I've said before that parenthood, like our children, God uses our children to show us like the worst parts of ourselves that we need
it's
to
a
correct.
Mirror to say the least.
And like it's kind of sad because like once it happens, it's like, oh, like you realize the damage has kind of already been done. And so not only am I needing to correct it in myself so that I'm setting the right example, I need to consistently correct, guide, redirect what's happening, in the 2-year-old that is looking at me saying, what the heck, Mom? Like, you don't really think that's something that would offend you until you hear it come out of your 2-year-old, and you're just like, wait, that's not how I want you to talk. And definitely not to me.
Right.
Public. Yes, my 2-year-old looking at me and saying, what the heck, Mom, in public is not something that I desire, and that was not the intended result of my parenting. So anyway, that concludes our 2-part series of why we have such a large family. And we hope that you stay tuned for more content to come.